Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today I want to talk to you about depth gauges. I've just drilled this hole and I don't know how deep it is. I need to measure it so I can see how much further I need to go. The stem on my caliper won't get in there. We're in a little bit tight quarters here, but I don't want to take down my setup. My Starrett number 4-40 won't fit under there. My Starrett 440 won't fit under there. I've had both of these very nice depth micrometers. I have the kits with the interchangeable rods, etc. Had them for about a year and a half, 2 years. Tell you the truth, I never use them. I bought them used. I wouldn't dream of buying them new. This is my go-to depth gauge right here. This is inspired by a man that goes, a YouTuber that goes by the name of Tinker John, out of the great state of Texas. This is as simple as it gets. There's a little knob here, a sliding rod. Put your rod in the hole, tighten up your knob, and you can now transfer that depth very accurately to measure it with a digital caliper. Sits in a drawer, not in a fancy case and tucked away somewhere. Sits in a drawer in with my calipers, actually. Very handy. Slap it in the hole, get your measurement, away you go. Get some nice tight quarters. Anyway, that's our project for tonight. Tinker John's depth caliper. Let's start with the knob. This one, if I was to do it over again, the knob and the bar, I'll call it, are the same size on this one, so the knob is often in the way. We'll make ours a little different. We'll make our knob smaller than the bar. Let's go to the lathe. Okay guys, I've gone through my scrap bin. An inch and a half-inch square, about 2.5 long, half-inch diameter brass for the knob, and some 3/32 drill rod. Doesn't get much simpler than that. I think we can do this whole project on the lathe. I don't need to. I have a nice mill drill there, but it'll be interesting. Let's give it a try. See if we can do the whole thing on the lathe. Okay, we've got our half-inch brass in the collet chuck. Having the handle, the knob rather, and the bar the same thickness is not a good idea. It could interfere, etc. So I'm going to take down the OD of my brass. We're at 1/2 inch now and the bar is 1/2 inch. I'm going to take it down to 0.400. So some straightforward turning to start. Okay, I'm going to touch off, advance 50 thousandths, take 2 passes at 50 thou to give us our 0.400 dimension. Zero my dial. And another 50. Okay, let's just, for shits and giggles, see where we ended up. Not that it matters. Fluke. Okay, we're ready to knurl. Our knob has a nice knurl. So I'll set up the knurling tool. Okay, I think we're ready to knurl. This is brass, so it should go easy. That'll work. Next thing we're going to do is turn the diameter for our 832 threads. The parting blade goes there, knob goes there. So I'm going to set my carriage stop I'll zoom you out. There's my carriage stop. I'm just eyeballing where I want those threads to end. Maybe a little bit more. .832, so we're going to take this diameter down to 1.6. I'll take another 50 thou off of here, set my dial to 0, and then we'll see where we're at. Advance 50 thou, set my dial to 0, make our cut. Our desired is 0.160, 0 on our cross slide dial brought us to 354. That means another 194. We'll take it off in 50 thou increments. Okay, we are ready to put a chamfer on the end there to make it easy for our die to start. Okay, like I was saying, we'll put a little chamfer on there so our die starts easy. Full disclosure, I had to redo that part, of course. A little too aggressive with a dull chamfering tool. Lesson is, don't be so ham-fisted. Just about did it again. Okay, we'll set up the tailstock die holder. Okay, we have our 832 die. We'll go for second slowest speed. There we go. We'll give that a little trim. We'll give it a little trim right about there. We'll clean that up, of course. And we'll pour it off. That's why I love the collet chuck. I'm not concerned about wrapping my knuckles on the jaws. It'll focus on just about anything but. So I want to clean up this nub on the back side. We'll see if 7/16 collet will go down small enough. Looks good. Just face that nub off. There we go. Now we will turn our attention to the bar. Okay, here's our stock for the bar. We have a nasty burrs and saw cut end on there. Normally I would run over to the mill and square up those ends, but I feel like trying to do everything on the lathe here, so there's an 11/16 collet. I'll arrange it so that the corner of the stock is not in any of the slots, and we'll see what happens here. I love my collet chuck, but Chinese collets, they don't always want to start. There we go. This is probably a little hard on the collet, I don't know. There we go, I think that's going to work just fine. I'm just going to rotate the stock slightly. Make sure we're not in one of those slots. Yeah, there we go. Looks great. The ends are perfectly square to the length of the stock. That works 100%. I'll just run a file over these sharp edges now, and I'll be right back. Okay, continue working on the bar. Do a little layout work here. That is way too thick. The bar gets two holes, one where the rod passes through and a threaded hole for the knob. I'm going to lay out the hole for the bar. It gets centered. I've set up my square for the center of the work. Now I want a 1/4 inch up for the bar. Miller Falls square. Awesome, awesome tool. Here's for our bar. Now I'm thinking I want to offset this. This knob is centered height-wise. I'm thinking I want to offset it a little bit. Just make it easier to get your fingers around when it's resting on whatever surface you're checking with. So I'm going to go a little bit off center, just a titch. There's a 16th. So I'm going to scratch an R on here for, no, I'm going to scratch a K for knob. And this is the rod side. I showed this center punch the other day, optical center punch. Place the base. It's got a nice rubber O-ring so it doesn't slide around. You put your optics in. I'm going to pause so you don't see the back of my head. Right there, I've adjusted it so that our crosshairs are on the scribe marks. A wrap. Do the same thing on this side with our offset hole. You're welcome. Surprising how many YouTubers, machinists, get their heads right in there. We'll beef those up a little bit. Kijiji. Why am I fooling around on my wooden bench? This makes all the difference in the world. Okay, I'm going to throw the 4-jaw on the lathe and we'll see if we can get these punch marks centered up. Okay, we've got the body of the depth gauge and the 4-jaw here now. We've got it pretty much centered up on our mark. This is for the rod. I have a point out of my scribe in the chuck here, and I just adjusted the 4 jaws so that our work is centered on that dimple. So we'll center drill and then drill 3/16, 3/32. I'll just get a countersink and we'll put a little chamfer on that hole. There we go, the rod fits nice. A snug sliding fit, so now we have to tap 832 for our knob. I'll do the same thing. I'll put my scribe end in the tailstock chuck and use the 4-jaw to align this to the scribe. That looks pretty close there. We'll center drill first, and then the tap drill size for 832 is a number 29 drill bit. Give her some love. Twilight Zone, eh? We'll set up for tapping. Here's my tap follower. Bigger taps have a center hole in the end. The 832 is too small. It has just a square end, so we turn this around. It has a hollow on the other end of the spring-loaded bit. So there's a spring in here that we don't want to lose. There we go. That side's pointy, the other side here is hollow. Tighten that right back up. Seems to work best when it's adjusted quite tightly. There's our 832 with a brass collar on there, and there's our tap guide. Put our tap guide in the tailstock drill chuck. Give the top plenty of oil. That's cutting nicely. Advance the chuck. Keep pressure on that top so it stays aligned. Oh, now my collar's slipping. Keep the guide tensioned. There, I think we're at the bottom of the hole. So we'll remove the guide, remove our top. I'll just run a bottoming tap through there, make sure we're threaded down to the bottom of the hole. Yeah, that's about it. There we have it. That went well. I had to run the 3/32 through there again just by hand to deburr. Our knob grabs the rod well, nice and solid. I ground I just on the bench grinder. I ground this end flat. So now there's a burr there. We've got a little bit of cleanup to do on the rod. We will wipe down the body, the bar. Can you see how the knob is offset towards the top slightly? Lets you get your fingers underneath a bit. So now when you're set on the material to be measured, there's a little more room for your fingers. I'll clean up the rod and bring you back. So I've got my, call it granite block. I think it's man-made, actually. And I got some worn out 400 here. 3M. Just give it a little love here, make sure there's no burrs, so that the measuring instrument sits flat. Make sure the bar is solidly on the material. The rod's at the bottom of the hole, tighten up the knob. This is a transfer type measuring instrument, same as a telescoping gauge. That hole is exactly 1.215 deep. There you have it, guys. Tinker John's depth gauge.